My friend Colin Plume from Noble Gold Investments just released his new book, Silver is the New Oil. And it says if you don't own silver yet, you're already behind. Colin says that as demand for technology, energy, and industry soars, silver's value is set to surge. The question is, are you ready to profit? This book reveals why silver is the most underrated asset today and how to invest before the world catches on. I've read Silver is the New Oil, and you should too. Get it now, available on Amazon. Joining us now is a great friend, a warrior, a fighter for liberty and truth, James O'Keefe, and I'm thrilled about what might be happening here after a bitter struggle of multiple years. James, my friend, great to see you. Please share with our audience this promising news.
Hey, Charlie, great to be with you, and great job in England.
Thank
You're a
you.
very brave man. I'm surprised they didn't arrest you for saying what you said.
Well, I got to be honest. I tried my best, and I was disappointed that they didn't. I did not get into handcuffs. I would have loved to have become a political prisoner, because I think Marco Rubio and President Trump would have made a couple phone calls. But I tried my best.
Well, they don't have a First Amendment over there, so what you did was very brave, and I thank you for that. I report to you all today that people are asking what actually happened at Project Veritas, the organization I founded, and I've released, Charlie, a movie released yesterday on my website called The Truth Inside Veritas. There's a 12-minute video we published online. Apparently, in these depositions in the court case between me and my organization I founded, board members admitted that they were in business together. They had various entanglements, and they were co-investing in medical companies that, quote, could be sold to Pfizer. As you recall, I investigated Pfizer 2 years ago, did a huge story on the director of mRNA research and scientific planning. Just a week later, I was fired, and now it turns out they had investments. You're looking at a federal deposition of George Skakel, and he's admitting that he was in business with these other board members, Charlie. So this is kind of some breaking news here, and I am in talks to retain control, get back in control of Project Veritas, the nonprofit that I once founded.
Well, that is amazing, James. And just remind our audience the very difficult couple of years you had to go through and what it would mean to now reassert control over Project Veritas.
Well, I mean, you and I have talked about this in Arizona and elsewhere. It's a lot of things. The story is, this film, The Truth Behind Veritas, is really a story about original sin. I think what we do, the investigative video journalism, getting sued all the time. By the way, I got sued last week by one of these deep state guys that we busted. I think people are put under pressure. They're put through a high-powered lens. But when you run an organization, you have people who feel entitled, who sometimes get jealous or get envious, and that can turn very toxic. It can grow vindictive when people don't get what they want, but also when you're being raided by the feds, when you're being sued all the time. I think people are put under pressure. People tend to crack, people tend to break, people tend to betray you. So this is a really interesting saga, a really interesting documentary that we've produced about everything that's happened. It's an hour-long film behind our paywall at OMG, but there's a 12-minute video online that takes you through some of the highlights. It's very, very difficult, Charlie. I've talked about this extensively. It's very painful to go through that. And we've all been through it to some degree if you've ever built anything. And I learned some lessons about who to surround myself and who not to surround myself with. And you got to have really strong people who are very virtuous people who are willing to tell the truth and shame the devil. Not an easy thing to endure, but hopefully this will all get resolved very soon.
What has this process taught you about yourself, going from when they took your nonprofit from you to now 2 years later where it looks like you might regain control, you had to build your own thing? What are the lessons that you learned about the conservative movement, about the state of media, and also some personal lessons?
Very good question. I think the number one lesson I've learned is, I would say, Charlie, everyone can come into my inner circle. If you want to be involved, by all means. And I know that you get this. I get this every day. Hundreds of messages of people wanting to help. And it's one thing for them to help at the grassroots level, but I think letting them into your inner sanctum, I think, and I hope you would agree, you really do have to be careful with
Correct.
who you surround yourself with.
Of course.
You can't let everybody into your headquarters, close to you, because I think people will betray you when the going gets tough. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because they're incentivized to. And I think one of the things I've struggled with is how to reconcile the instinct for self-preservation with always doing the right thing. And if you're going to be a truth teller, and I mean if you're really going to be a truth teller, the preservation for, self-preservation and self-interest come into conflict with that. So you have to find people who are almost messianic, who are mission-driven, who are self-sacrificial to a certain degree, if you want to do this type of truth-telling. So what I've learned is discernment, and perhaps I was slightly naive, but I also think, like I said, this is a story about original sin. You watch this film, and it's really remarkable, the vindictiveness and the pettiness of people. And also, sometimes it just comes down to money. It just comes down to money. And you heard Skakel say in the movie, he points at his house and says, "You can't afford my house, O'Keefe." And that statement just said so much about who he is. And unfortunately, you got some people here who I probably shouldn't have hired.
Let's play cut 377.
I shouldn't have trusted these guys, but I did trust these guys.
A lot of people thought there was malfeasance. I would prefer to say ignorant of those events. I didn't want to know.
Nonprofit boards of directors can be very, very dangerous.
Fortunately, I have recordings and documents to back up everything I'm about to tell you.
Employees were starting to bundle up and talk.
If we're about to paint James as a criminal, it better be good.
They sent a pic of me nailed to a cross.
They used these kids. Matt used them to further his agenda.
The reason why James was bad was morphing.
I never lived this lifestyle with black cards.
He's a mean boss.
Stress with his girlfriend is not appropriate.
I don't know that James has a private life.
Objection.
James took a pregnant woman's sandwich. And these are people that we thought were people with integrity.
Who on the board is in?
What did we just see there, James? We have a podcast and radio audience. I mean, that is very dramatic and telling stuff.
Oh, yeah. It's very cinematic. For those listeners who are not seeing this, this is Baroque paintings and images of me nailed to a crucifix, employees accusing me of stealing pregnant ladies' sandwiches, bizarre, strange human envies and jealousies and pettiness. But this is incredible. I mean, I'm not just saying this. It took us 2 months to make. Very well done, very artistic. You see courtroom deposition footage. These are public proceedings. People ask me, Charlie, well, how can you air all this footage from a court case? Deposition footage is public proceeding. So this is a really remarkable film that actually takes you inside the boardroom at Project Veritas, where you get to hear these grievances. You actually hear a recording of the board meeting, of the board members who fired me, the reasons for firing me, which are so bizarre, it almost seems fake, but it's real. And that's what you're watching here on the screen, about what really happened. Joe Rogan yesterday, Charlie Kirk, Joe Rogan on the air
With Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers asking, whatever happened with James O'Keefe and Project Veritas? Why doesn't O'Keefe release the tapes? Well, ironically, literally, I did while he was saying that yesterday.
And so I guess the final question I have, James, and by the way, I have your back 100%. I've had this entire process, and I'm thrilled to see that you're going to be on the right side of this. And I know we talked about this a lot throughout the years, and I hope our audience is getting closure here. What is next then? And do you believe the grassroots are ready to continue this rise of citizen journalism?
Man, I think the type of journalism that we do is a little bit different than perhaps commentary journalism. And I am creating business models as I speak to you about how to make this sustainable. I got sued last week by one of the guys I busted in the Pentagon. It's not cheap. And I think citizen journalism is not free. It costs money to do. And I built a nonprofit. Now we have Citizen Journalism Foundation. Hopefully we acquire Project Veritas here and we change the name back to Project Veritas Foundation. But I don't know if the commercial imperative, Charlie, is fully compatible with investigative journalism. In other words, I don't know that it can be profitable. And therefore, I don't know how to make it sustainable, but I'm working on it. And we've done some big stories in Epstein the last couple weeks. We have more stories coming in our federal government exposing corruption. And I said this, and I mean this sincerely, the stuff that I have on video, particularly in Washington, D.C., of these contractors, people should be going to jail. And if they don't go to jail, then I'm going to have serious questions about who our prosecutors are. But I'm trying to make journalism sustainable, and I'm trying to create business models for it. But also, Charlie, reckoning with these aspects of human nature that make it difficult to do when you're telling the truth and when you're shaming the devil. These instincts for self-preservation often come into conflict with what you're doing. And that's why I wanted to tell this story. And it's an ongoing story, but I wanted to tell the story.
Keep fighting, James. We have your back. Hope to see you soon, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.